So how to manage stress response naturally without relying solely on medication. Hopefully not at all on medication, because I just think the majority of people probably don't need it, although no judgment against anyone who has used it. I know everybody's situation is a little bit differently, but I'm going to give you some things that are natural because I think they're the things that are accessible to everybody and we should take advantage of. My name is Rochelle Walsh, and if you're new to me, I have been a complex trauma therapist for many years, and I now have a 90-day coaching program for women where I help them go from overwhelming chronic stress to calm and confident. And so we do that through neuroscience-based strategies and principles of Christian faith. So I am excited to talk to you today about how to manage chronic stress naturally. We're going to talk about this from the perspective of the mind, body, and spirit, and I hope these things are things that are helpful to you. In the time of this video, there's no possible way that I could explain all the things that we have available to us naturally, but I'm going to give you some tips and some things that are important to really think about. So first of all, our mind. We know that our mind is a powerful thing. It's the thing that makes you very unique, and no one will ever have the same mind that you do. Our mind is important. It's working all the time. It never shuts off, even when we're asleep. So what goes in is very, very important. The quality of our thoughts and the quality of our subconscious beliefs really do so much to determine how we experience life, how our body responds, and many other things, how we interact with the world. So for that, mindset work is super important. It's all natural, and no one can do it for you. So that means no matter what amount of wisdom you gain from reading a book, nobody can implant that in your brain over and over again but you. And that gives you 100% of control, right? It's about finding the information, but then, just knowing it doesn't mean that we are living it. I was a complex trauma therapist for many years, loved my work. And there was a time in my life where I was finding myself stuck because of some circumstances in a really pattern of chronic stress. And I started realizing that I had to take what I knew and actually really put more of those things into practice in a way that I hadn't really deliberately done before. So that's super important. But recognizing our mind, we can think about patterns of self-talk, what we say to ourselves, really having a heightened awareness of how we talk to ourselves, how we respond to our own emotions, and really watching the input that goes in our mind. So your brain is always listening. It's listening to what you have on the radio, how much news you're taking in, what you're reading, what you're seeing when you're scrolling. So you control the input of what goes in your mind. As children, we don't have that luxury, right? The adults in our life, whether that's what's happening in our home or our school system, are really programming in and telling us what to think and controlling what we're exposed to. But most adults have control over what's on the TV, how much screen time you have, whether or not you listen to the news too much, those kinds of things. So we can really watch the input of what goes in our mind and then watch the way that we talk to ourselves. Those are two fundamental ways that we can control our mind. And so the right input, so things that are connected to wisdom, biblical truth, reading the right things, having the conversations that are uplifting and positive, that's really important for what we do for our mind. The next is our body. And I think that in the world of psychology, in my home, we're kind of we're not divided, but we have different perspectives on things. And I've been able to see how the mind and the body really work together because my husband practices functional medicine, does epigenetic testing and things like that. So he looks at things from a physical health angle, and I look at from a mental health and emotional well-being angle. But like I said, they just go together so much. So I'm going to explain a little bit about the body because I think we can forget that. We can think, why am I reading all the right things and trying to think all the things and shooting myself into, a lot of situations. And yet we are not taking care of our body in a way that helps us regulate and maintain a healthy nervous system. So I'm going to touch on some of the things that are really important. So first of all, stress is an inflammatory response. Okay. And so there are beliefs and thoughts that can cause that stress response, right? There are also things that we are in our environment or that we eat that might cause an inflammatory stress response. So think about a histamine reaction, or think about something that's our body just doesn't respond well to, and it gets inflamed. So that can heighten a stress response. And so we have to be able to take care of our body. So if we recognize that we are eating a lot of processed foods, that we're eating a lot of caffeine, a lot of sugar, really cleaning up our diet can be really helpful in maintaining nervous system health, because we're going to be lowering that inflammation and allow our body and our immune system to function more optimally. So I know that diet changes are not something that some people are like, that's the last thing I want to change. I don't want to, but really knowing what is good for your body and what's not good for your body. And there's some differentiation there. Something that might not be good for me might be just perfectly fine for you. If you have other issues in addition to the stress, gut issues, those things are good to look at sometimes. In my mind, they don't preempt the stress response, because I've seen people, and my husband has seen a lot of people chasing health symptoms, a multitude of health symptoms, and yet they're still firing in the subconscious a stress response. And so, they tackle one physical health issue and then another one pops up. So don't ignore the mind work that needs to be done, the emotional regulation work, because you'll have to fight much harder to have good physical health. A lot of times when people lower their stress response, their health symptoms get better or subside. But when people treat their health issues, they don't necessarily develop better emotional regulation skills. So I hope that makes sense. So food can be really, inflammatory to us. Sleep patterns, circadian rhythm, having a good sleep, it not only restores our body, but it restores our mind. It helps us consolidate memories. It helps us detox. It helps us reprocess information. So it's really good to get important sleep. So sleep patterns that we can regulate through wake time, sleep time, patterns. Again, some of that might be changing our diets, changing our habits, but getting good sleep and prioritizing good sleep is definitely something we can do to help reduce a stress response naturally. Another thing that's often overlooked is the quality of our connections. So there is so much research on how a sense of community and connection helps with emotional resiliency. It helps us modulate stress. There's been research done that shows that it can buffer us from certain genetic vulnerabilities. So that's where, my husband does epigenetics testing, and he can test for something, but just because someone has an expression of something that they may be vulnerable to doesn't mean that that's going to be expressed. But under stress, those genetic vulnerabilities get turned on. And so the quality of our social connections can really help lower our stress response. So look at, who are you spending the most time with? Who are you talking to? Is it someone who's really negative and you have a hard time setting boundaries with? Or is it someone who is uplifting and positive and a good source of support? So gaining a great social support system helps us feel connected. It helps us to not feel alone. And when we don't feel alone, your brain says you're safe, right? When we're alone on the outskirts, it says you're vulnerable to attack. That's what our primitive brain says. So social connection is a big thing that we can naturally do in order to lower our stress response. And the last thing I want to talk about, and certainly not in order of importance, is the spirit. So, for me, I am a Christian, so my faith is important to me. And so I am going to make sure that I am aligning myself with truth by, again, using that truth to strengthen what I believe, to make sure that my actions are aligned. I'm going to put myself in community where that's supported, and I'm going to see my struggles and my challenges through the lens of my faith. And so that's how I take care of my spirit. And so I think, when we think about wanting to naturally have a regulated nervous system, there's many things we can do in each of these categories. In the body, we could have talked about other things things like releasing, a stress response or postures, things I talk about in other videos. So there's many things we can do with our body, where our feet take us in the world, what our hands do. We can think about different ways that we use our mind in creative aspects. And then spiritually, we can heighten our sense of discernment and lean into purpose, which again, people that feel connected to purpose are much less likely to, live from a state of fear or anxiety. So there's things we can do in all of these realms. And one thing that you should know is that it's available to you, meaning that I personally see a lot of people out there in the world saying things about just accepting. You just have anxiety. I don't buy it. I think that we all have a stress response that can be turned on. I believe some of us have a bigger hurdle than others in learning to calm that. I do not believe in the broken brain model that says that you were just designed to be an anxious person. I just don't believe it. So I think that, and it's fine for people to agree. I love, different opinions, but I've just seen too many people that have had long-standing stress or PTSD or been given many other diagnoses or who will by their own admission say, I've just been a worrier my whole life, or I've just been type A and I've just never known how to relax. And I've seen that change because we are all capable of change and growth, and we have natural ways to be able to do that. We have principles of neuroplasticity that let us renew the mind. So if you're interested in getting more information on how I help people, information's below. I have a free masterclass that describes the underlying cause of overwhelm and my approach for helping women break free. I'd love for you to check that out. If you're interested in knowing how you can live with greater calm confidence, please subscribe to my channel. If this content interests you and you want to hear more, you can visit me on other social media channels, Facebook and Instagram. And until next time, stay joyful and present.